Welcome to Terry's Kitchen, where we talk food, faith, and family. It's a Sunday morning, and I'm fixing brunch for Ron and I, and we are going to be making a French omelet. But before we get started, I'd like to read out of the Message Bible, Mark 8. The Messiah. Jesus and his disciples headed out for the villages around Caesarea Philippi. As they walked, he asked, "Who did the people say I am?" "Some say John the Baptizer," they said. "Others say Elisha. Still others say one of the prophets." He then asked, "And you, what are you saying about me? Who am I?" Peter gave the answer, "You are the Christ, the Messiah." So we were listening to a sermon this morning, and they were talking about that. Who do you feel Christ is? And what is kind of your purpose in life? So I'm going to wash my hands, and I'm going to have Ron come in and just tell you a little bit about how we came about this French omelet.
Good morning. Years ago I read a book, and it's one of my favorite books, called My Life in France. Julia Child wrote it with her nephew. Excuse me. It was a fairly short period in Julia and Paul Child's life, but it is set back in the 50s into the 60s, and it was just a neat time. Julia Child reminded me a little bit of an aunt that I had, Aunt Louise, and there were some correlations between the two, but anyway, one of the things was Julia Child discovered French cooking while she was in France, and she sort of took it on as a pastime, although she did do some classes and whatnot. But one of the things that she really loved was an omelet, which we always thought, you know, an omelet was something you put in the pan and then did the, you know, you just take a spatula and scoop it around. But actually, it's something, if it's done properly, it's very light and fluffy, and Terry's going to show you how to do it, and hopefully it will turn out right. But we just saw...
So little trust in you.
Well, it's a little bit of a shaking of the pan thing, and you have to really have that down pat to get it right. But anyway, we just saw, I think it was the first episode of Julia, which is done on HBO, and it was so funny because she had written her book about French cooking, and she went on a public television station, which was very new at the time, and the guy was a windbag that she was going on to be interviewed with, and he gave her the worst introduction possible, and he said he hadn't even read the book because basically it wasn't worthy of his time to read. Maybe his wife may have read it, and he totally missed the point of the whole thing and the experience and whatnot. But anyway, she borrowed a hot pan from the front desk, and she had brought the eggs and butter with her because at the last minute she decided, well, I'll just show them how to make a French omelet, and it was totally different, and you'll see it now. Okay,
so I have the stove heated up. I've got a non-stick skillet, and you need the non-stick because, as Ron said, it's a shaking process to get that fluffy omelet. So I have that heating up, and it's warm, so I'm going to add about probably a tablespoon of butter. Set that to the side. So you want your butter to melt, but you don't want it to burn. So while that's melting, I'm going to put 3 eggs that are at room temperature into my mixing bowl here, because we're going to whisk it to get that nice fluffy texture. I'm going to put a little bit of salt, and that's kosher salt, in the eggs. I'm going to set that off just a second while I whisk. Should have been whisking while Ron was talking, but I was fascinated about it. You know, Julia and her love of cooking And the way she presents is, her and I have definitely a love for cooking. So the butter is getting a little brown, but I'm going to put that back up until it gets heated. Back up. And just really mix those eggs. And then you're going to pour that in. And then you're just going to continuously just shake while the eggs get done. And that's kind of what you do. You really don't touch it, move it around other than the shaking of your skillet. Get those arm muscles going. Because if you can see, now there's some eggs left over here, but from that motion, it's kind of pulling the other parts of those eggs away. And depending upon your skillet, if your non-stick coating, you may not be able to get some of that. So that is done here. I'm going to grab that so we can do one final, and then we're going to put it in on the plate. Now, of course, Julia's is absolutely perfect, and Ron may have been right. You know, practice makes perfect. But as you can tell, they're kind of fluffy. They really should have come out into a pretty omelets, kind of folded and shaped. But that's okay. I had more confidence in this than Ron was. You know, he's like, probably it's not going to work. So what I have here, I've got some chives that I'm just going to put on top. Again, you know, you hear me talk about presentation. We're going to put a little bit of ground black pepper on the top, and I have a beautiful red tomato, an avocado, got some slices of bacon, and then we have a fruit cup. So what a wonderful brunch, and sharing it with the ones you love. So I hope you would consider making this. It does take practice to get that rolling in there. But they still look fluffy, you have to admit, Ron.
They do. It looks good.
So thank you for watching our videos. If you like the videos, hit like, share, and subscribe. We do appreciate it, and blessings.